السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. My dear respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, you're welcome to Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. We're streaming it live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. So please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our platforms, including Facebook page, our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our Twitter handle. And of course, hashtag Ask Iman, as you can see, is displayed on your screen. Facebook page, YouTube channel, and our Twitter handle. You can also watch our program via our website, emanchannel.tv. Since it's a live interactive Q&A program, 0203 515 0757 is our studio number. Obviously, we'll give our preference to callers who calls us directly into the studio. And of course, if you're an international viewer, you can use the WhatsApp number, or you can drop us a text using the WhatsApp number that are displayed at the bottom of your TV screen. We're also streaming it live, so please don't forget, you can leave us your questions in the comment section below, either on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. I'm your host, Qamarul Islam. Joining us today, none other than Imam Abid Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
First of all, thank you very much for giving us your valuable time. I know month of Ramadan is a very busy period as an Imam, but thank you once again for giving us your valuable time. Now, let's start with our discussion. It's an observation that I've noticed during the month of Ramadan. We see our masajids are full, and we see when the Fard Salah has started, we see some Musallis, they don't join the Fard, they pray the Sunnah, as we know the importance of Sunnah during the first two rakah Sunnah before the Fajr Fard Salah. Now, we understand the importance, but at the same time, the Iqamah has started, or the Imam has started the Fard Salah. We see some brother going in the corner and praying the Sunnah first, and then joining the Jama'ah, the Fajr Salah. How should we do it?
This is for the Fajr Salah.
Fajr Salah only.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa usalli wa usallim ala man bu'itha rahmatan lil alameen. This issue of what a person should do when one enters the mosque or the congregational prayer and the congregation has already begun and yet a person hasn't prayed the Sunnah Salahs, the supererogatory prayers which precede the actual Fard mandated prescribed prayers. What's the correct course of action? Ordinarily, when the Iqamah has been called, La salata illa al-maktuba, there's no prayer except for that which is already Fard, the actual Dhuhr Salah, the Asr Salah, Maghrib, Isha, etc. When it comes to and so if a person enters and they haven't prayed the Sunnahs which precede Dhuhr, for example, one goes straight into the Dhuhr Salah and one prays the Dhuhr Fard. And then there's two opinions as to whether the Sunnah which precede the Fard can be made up thereafter or not. According to the Hanafi and the Maliki school of thought, there's more of a question there. According to the Shafi'i and Hanbali, it is mandated to do so. With the Fajr Salah specifically, the Madhahib discuss this. And the Jumhur, that's the Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbala, they say you go straight into the Fard because they extend the same principle which exists for Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. Within the Hanafi school of thought, there is the opinion which says that if they're, because of the elevated status of that specific Sunnah, one is to, outside the actual area where the Jama'ah is being conducted, separate to that, one would pray the two Sunnah of Fajr and obviously one would try and be swift in praying so long as they have the overall certitude or overriding judgment that they could catch the Fard Salah. That's the position with the Hanafi school of thought. As for the majority of the scholars that stand outside the school of thought, they say you're meant to go straight into the Fard Salah, as would be the case with all the other Fard Salahs as well. And Allah knows best.
Now, if you join the Fard Salah, Fajr, we're talking here, but we understand the importance of the Fajr Sunnah as well. Now, can we pray after the Fard Salah or best time to perform that Sunnah?
So, according to those who are the madhab, the majority who say that you go straight into Fard Salah. Now you've missed the Sunnah Salah. What do you do for those Sunnahs? Because the Sunnah of Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ said about it, رَكَعَةَ الْفَجْرِ خَيْرٌ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا فِيهَا. That the two rak'ahs of Fajr are better than the whole dunya and all that it contains. Its spiritual value is so immense. So how does one kind of make up for those two missed Sunnahs? There are kind of two views on this, if you like. One which says, and this is the Shafi'i position, which says that if one has missed it and now one was to pray it after the Fajr Salah, because after the Fajr Fard, as you're aware, it's a waqt nahi. It's a time when you don't actually engage in prayer in ritual, salahs, until the sun has risen properly, right? So they say, no, this is what's known as that asbab. It's with a particular purpose. You're not seeking out to pray in this time specifically. As the hadith mentions, la taharru, don't seek out to pray in this time. So it's got a cause, it's a legitimate bona fide cause, so you can pray it there. Other scholars say, well, if you can wait until after the sun has risen, 15, 20 minutes after the sun has risen, then that is the better course for action. In fact, all scholars agree, if you do it at that time, that's the best time altogether. The question is it permissible prior to the sunrise? And the Shafi'is say, yes, it is.
Okay, khalas. So you're giving us all the opinions there, which is great. And finally, because when the sunnah, we know about the importance of Zuhr sunnah as well. Now, if you've missed the Zuhr sunnah, especially in the month of Ramadan, we want to take the full advantage of sunnah and faraid together. So I've joined the fard salah after the sunnah of the Zuhr salah. Can I make it here?
You make it up.
Okay, khalas. And will it be a sunnah or will it be classified as nafil?
No, it would be a sunnah.
Sunnah, exactly. Thank you. Jazakallah khair for that. And finally, before I move on to the questions, I'd like to say thank you very much, Sofa, for sending us the questions. Inshallah, we'll be taking those questions live in a few moments. Define illness, because there's a lot of confusion. I'm ill, I can't fast.
So this is an interesting question. The fuqaha do discuss this, and I'll share this with you in a moment. I am somewhat mindful, reluctant in answering this, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But here is the point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second chapter of the Quran. He says, whoever of you is unwell or on a journey, then let them make an equivalent number of days up. What's noteworthy here is that the marida, the marad, the illness, has not actually been qualified. It's not been explained specifically, not in the Quran. And in the ahadith, it's not actually set out either in explicit detail, saying this level of illness or that level of illness. And there's a reason for that, of course, because illnesses vary, right? And the Sharia or the Islamic law is not there to kind of, if you like, project onto you externally which level of illness is going to kind of mandate you taking this concession or not. It's actually an internal experience as well, in part. So while you would actually no doubt consult your physician or healthcare provider, you yourself know what you're experiencing. And Siyam is built, its premise on a genuineness of relationship between me and my Maker. It needs to be between me and my Maker, that I know am I for a genuine bona fide reason, not fasting because I'm genuinely too weak. I have, as the fuqaha would give, the jurists would give examples, as someone who's suffering from a high fever, someone who's got a temperature, someone who's kind of, got a condition which is more, it's not just a very mild headache or kind of a bit of a, what's the expression? Just a bit of a runny nose or the like. We're talking about something more than that. Actually, they have concerns of it being more than that, or actually it is more than that. And what's noteworthy, this is why I said I was reluctant, is because actually the Quranic language is very clear. The Quran says, whoever's unwell or on journey, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. The Arabic connotes this sense of just merely, it's a very simple reality. Okay, you're not fasting right now. You will make up those fasts, though, correct? That's your resolve. And it's going to be an equivalent number. And Allah's فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Then just make up an equivalent number of days outside Ramadan. So either way, you're going to fast those fasts anyway, inshallah ta'ala.
Excellent. Thanks, Jazakallah khair for that. And of course, as we always say, if there is any medical concern, do, as Shaykh has mentioned, contact his physicians or doctor or health provider, whoever it is, and take the appropriate advice. Now, moving on swiftly, before we go on a break, we'll take first preloaded question, and that will be inshallah displayed on your screen. The first question, can I reject an iftar invite because I will miss Isha or Taraweeh Salah?
So what I would ordinarily do myself is, if I had concerns in this respect, I would just simply share them with the host. I'd say, what, I would love to come. My only concern is I don't know if I'll manage to catch Isha and Taraweeh, which I'm really keen to. I don't want to be missing any of the salawat. And you might find, as I found, that they show quite a high degree of understanding. Say, no, come anyway, and you can leave early and then come back afterwards if you want to, etc. So that's generally what I do. Perhaps you may wish to borrow a leaf from that book.
Yeah, because I would also do the same thing, because if someone has taken the time out to invite you, we can plan our time now. So we can go in, we know our local masjid, salah time or Isha time, whatever it is, and we can plan our journey accordingly,
Absolutely.
Inshallah. And also another thing, that reminds me, is it a must that I have to only pray in that masjid where I've started the Salat al-Tarawih because I need to complete the whole khatam?
No,
so there is a misunderstanding
there. There's no must in that respect. your objective is to gain the pleasure of God, pleasure of Allah, by being in the act of devotion, of salah, of reciting the Quran, of khushu', of khudu', and that's attainable, inshallah, in another masjid, of course.
Excellent. So what would you say when you say, no, it doesn't feel right. I've started in one masjid. I want to finish in that masjid only.
If you want to do so, that's your prerogative by all means, but that's not what's mandated.
I see. Okay. Jazakallah khair for that clarification, Sheikh. We're going for a short break, my dear viewers. It's time for a short break. But before that, I would like to remind you 0203 515 0757 is our studio number. Our WhatsApp number 07916841483. And of course, our international viewers can use the WhatsApp number to call us directly into the studio. And of course, our preference will always be given to the callers who are calling in directly or live into the studio. Of course, we're also live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. I can see already a lot of questions have been asked so far. Jazakallah khair for all those questions asked. Inshallah, when we come back from the break, we'll be starting with some of those questions, and we'll be taking YouTube question as well as on our Facebook question, inshallah, if there is any. And of course, don't forget, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our social media platforms, including Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and of course, our Twitter handle. You can watch this program live on our website, Eman Channel TV, and you can also watch this program, or you're watching this program on our Sky channel 757. You're watching Ask Eman. We'll be right back in a few moments. Thank you very much. Welcome back after the break. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 or 0203 515 0757 is our studio number. Of course, and our WhatsApp number 07916841483. You can drop us a text, and of course, our international viewers can take the advantage of calling using the WhatsApp number. And inshallah, priorities will always be given to callers, of course. And we are streaming live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. And I can see already questions are coming through. Inshallah, we'll be taking those questions live in conversation with Imam Abid Khan. But let's take callers first. Our first caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Mother Riyaz, we can hear you. You're live on Ask Eman. Assalamu alaikum. If I can kindly...
Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
A very young caller. What's your question?
I have got a Ramadan corner where I use a salah mat as the place where you sit. Is it okay to leave it out, or should I fold it?
Okay. Did you ask the question on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I've got the question. But thank you for calling in. I'll ask the Sheikh the question. It's a very good question. Thank you for calling in. You have not only dropped us a question on YouTube, but also called in live to make sure the question is answered. So we'll definitely make sure your question is answered. And of course, thank you very much for taking your parents' permission to call in live into the studio. Sheikh, the question, just for the benefit of our viewers, if you have missed it, Assalamu alaikum. And that's from a young caller, Riyadh. I have a Ramadan corner where I use a salah mat as the place where I sit. Is it okay to leave it out, or should I fold it in the month of Ramadan?
Firstly, congratulations on having a Ramadan corner. I hope that, inshallah, is encouragement for many of the people of you are watching. And they might, young kids might actually find that actually helps conjure this kind of Ramadan feel. And hopefully, inshallah, helps develop your love for Allah and for the month itself. In terms of your question regarding the prayer mat, you don't need to fold any corner. It's as you feel. If you want to fold the whole mat up, you can fold it up. If you want to leave it open, you can leave it open.
I'll add there, because in subcontinent we've got a tendency, we don't leave the, as we say, Jai Namaz or the prayer mat open. There's a lot of comments through here. We have to at least fold it. So it's a cultural practice.
It's a cultural practice.
Okay, so nothing to do with Islam.
Nothing.
Okay, so whether someone folds the whole mat or doesn't fold it, doesn't matter. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Hope the answer is clear to you. And thank you very much for asking such an important question. Now, let's move on to our YouTube question. And that is, Assalamu alaikum, dear Imam and Brother Qamarul Islam. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. My question is, what if someone breaks an oath and he's living off his parents? Should he just fast 3 days or ask parents money to feed the poor?
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما عقدتم الأيمان فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah does not hold you to account for, if you like, vows a person makes, in a state of mindlessness, kind of not intending, heedless of what one's saying. But what you actually did intend, and you made that vow, then there is a certain number of steps if you then kind of were to breach that vow, because your vow with Allah's name is of consequence, of course. So if you cannot, afford to feed the X number of people, etc., or to clothe them, the poor people, then you would fall back on the option of fasting for 3 days. أو إطعام 10 مساكين أو من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام. Fasting 3 days, correct, sorry. I was just rehearsing the verse in my own mind there. So you'd fast 3 days and that would suffice, and Allah knows best. But I want to add one point, that why are you making vows, brother? Or sister for that matter? You don't need to make vows in order to do something right. So if you say, I'm going to study, you don't need to say, I'm going to study, and if not, then I'm going to have to give charity, I'm going to have to do this by Allah. So, making vows, the hadith mentions, is only something which extracts something from the miser, from the one who doesn't want to give in the first place. Rather, try and work to build a mindset where you are self-motivated, self-driven, and you're not making vows needlessly. You don't want to be using Allah's name just, in vain, and nor do you need to make vows just to try and motivate yourself to do something correct in the first place. Just try and approach life with a positive, God-centered focus, where you're doing it for His pleasure, and you don't need to make vows needlessly, and Allah knows best.
Excellent, God-centered focus. I like it. And let's avoid in every little thing we have to take oath. We have got silly tendency. But obviously, we're not criticizing anyone. What we do is we learn from each other. And Jazakallah khair for sharing a valuable knowledge. Now, let's move on to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Ask Eman.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you for calling in. Your question, please.
Can a sick person do tayammum, and some tips how I can concentrate better in prayers?
Did you hear that?
Yes. What sort of sickness are we talking about? Is it a sickness which would prevent you from being able to use water? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, fever.
Sorry,
Yes.
fever?
Yeah, fever. Okay, I think I've understood the question. We'll cover both sides. And what was the second part?
Some tips how can someone concentrate better in prayers?
Okay, some tips on how someone can concentrate on prayers. Okay. Khalas. Thank you for calling in. Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. First, let's start with the tayammum. Let's cover both. Someone who genuinely medically confirmed by doctor that cannot use water because of whatever illness that person has got, and the other normal fever or whatever it is, and their doctors has got no restriction on using the water.
So, yeah, if you have, been suggested or advised by your doctor, your healthcare professional, not to be applying water to that area, because there's either a wound, a bandage, or anything of that nature, or just generally the condition is such that you can't, then this is clearly one of the Islamic exemptions where you would not be required to perform wudu or ghusl, and you would then be doing tayammum, and that would suffice. This is something that's mentioned in the Quran itself, and it's mentioned in the prophetic sunnah, both found in Bukhari and Muslim and elsewhere, where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this was acceptable in the hadith of Ammar and Umar al-Khattab and elsewhere. So that's absolutely fine. In terms of the example you gave of a fever, it could well be that your doctor has told you cannot make wudu with a fever. I'm no medical expert by any stretch. But I just wanted to highlight that if this is just your own feeling that you're thinking, you know what, any illness, the answer is no. It's not the case that any illness, if you like, precludes one from being required to make wudu. Rather, it's the illnesses which either you yourself believe would impede your, making wudu would impede your recovery, or the doctors are telling you that directly. So yourself, for example, if you suffer from some skin condition, you may feel like, you can see that actually water is going to make it worse. You can, you can exercise judgment in that respect. You are allowed to exercise judgment in that. But a fever, which no doctor's told you, and you don't have any sense, you're just thinking any illness. No, it's not any illness that gives you a blanket exemption. And there was one additional point to this that is to be borne in mind, which is sometimes you may have an additional challenge. For example, a person in the hospital, then and they're thinking, do I make tayammum instead of being able to go to the facilities? And that's, again, something you will look to try and negotiate and navigate, if you like, speaking to the nurses to see what's the right way forwards. And you try your best. The Quranic maxim, which is obviously the touchstone for us in terms of guidance, Allah says in the Quran, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, to keep your duty to Allah to the best of your ability, and nothing more than that is required. You try your best, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your situation.
Excellent. So, if I understood that correctly, the last resort is tayammum. You have to exhaust all the avenues.
Yes, in light of medical
reason. Okay.
guidance.
Of course, as we always say, we never give medical advice on this show. Do consult your doctor. But Mr. Shaykh has given us Islamic guidance or spiritual guidance. The second question, the answer is very long. I know there is no end to it, but our program is very brief.
Sure.
Briefly, some tips how to concentrate on prayer.
If you've got any sort of meeting, if you prepare beforehand, you're usually much more present in the meeting. If you come in late and you are having a discussion or an argument, Allah forbid, with someone or with some member or someone, and then you arrive in the meeting, all the people in the meeting will ordinarily be able to tell that you're frazzled and kind of distracted. So the point is, the more time, not only time you prepare before the salah, a few minutes, but between one salah and the other next salah, try and be someone who's connected to your maker, connected to Allah in your mindset, in your emotional state. The more you develop a relationship of speaking to Allah from your heart, even when your lips are not moving, the more that when you enter, your mind is already attuned to feeling close to Allah, and then you will be focused in your prayer.
Can I add, one of the ways could be abstaining from sinful activities?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Next question, I think we can cover it in 30 seconds. It's a preloaded question, and it's a common question in Ramadan. Is it okay to use Vaseline on your lips while fasting?
Yeah, so the scholars say that if the Vaseline is not going to be touching, tasted, then there's no problem. If it would be kind of tasted because you're going to be on the inner part of one's lip, then some of the scholars hold it to be makruh. That's within the Hanafi school of thought. But basically, it's permissible. It doesn't affect your validity of fast, and Allah knows best.
Okay, excellent. Inshallah, a lot more questions to ask, but after a short break, my dear viewers, you're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 0203 515 0757 is our studio number. 07916 841 is our WhatsApp number. You can drop us a text using the WhatsApp number, of course. And Jazakallah khair for all the questions you're sending us through our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we'll be taking those questions after a short break. And of course, we'll be taking the preloaded question as well as the question that you are sending us through WhatsApp. And of course, Sheikh, your favorite questions, zakats, are also there. I'm sure you'll be glad to know. So we'll be taking those questions in our next segment. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. Do stay tuned with us. We'll be right back in a few moments. Thank you very much. Welcome back. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel Sky 757 in conversation with Imam Abid Khan. Inshallah, we'll be taking your phone calls 0203 515 0757. Thank you for dropping us text on WhatsApp 07916 All the necessary contact details are displayed at the bottom of your screen. We're live on our Facebook page as well as in our YouTube channel. So please feel free to leave us your questions in the comment section below. Now let's start this segment with our caller. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Excellent. School half term and school holidays. Any young callers and viewers are calling in, mashallah. Thank you for calling in. Your question, please.
Is it okay Ramadan watch not Islamic stuff, or you have to watch Islamic stuff only in Ramadan?
Okay, what do you want to do?
Maybe both.
Maybe, intelligent answer. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for asking such an important question. And we all have children at our home. Those of us have got children. And also, thank you to your parents for allowing you to ask these questions live on air. It's a good question, Sheikh. And he's answered very intelligently, both.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I didn't catch your name, but I appreciate your question all the same. I want to say the following to you, which is, first of all, I really appreciate the fact that you're giving consideration to the fact that your behavior in Ramadan is going to be kind of that extra bit considered, filtered, showing this sense of judgment on your own part of what you think is right and what you think is wrong. These are excellent attributes, and this is what fasting is there to do, is to try and teach us the sense of judgment, discretion, consideration. You're just thinking that bit more closely. Is this the sort of lifestyle I want to be leading or not? Is this the sort of thing I should be doing or not? That's excellent. The next point I want to add is part of that discussion, that decision-making process should always be, asking your guardians, your mum, your dad, what the sort of thing that you should be watching and why you like it and why they may like it or may like some other things for yourself as well. All of that's a healthy sort of process for you in terms of just part of growing up. In terms of general kind of other forms of, halal entertainment and the like, it's interesting, the Prophet ﷺ, it's mentioned about his companions, because his companions weren't all adults and big, grown-ups, etc. There were some kids as well, of course, around the Prophet ﷺ. And it's mentioned that they say that they used to give their kids various, toys and forms of entertainment just to let some of the time pass by. Because obviously, when you're younger, you may feel the fast that bit more. So, having some sort of halal entertainment is fine. But yes, you have, all the other months to kind of do other stuff. So in Ramadan, make sure you try and increase that bit of, good activities where you're learning, you're growing. It doesn't have to be Islamic stuff alone. It might be about nature. It might be about other beneficial, good things that you're learning and absorbing information about Allah's creation, about life in general. So all of those are things. And trust me, the fast tends to mean that the day can go quite quickly as well.
And also, TV is not the only form of entertainment.
Absolutely.
We have got activities we can do, especially as parents.
Yeah.
If we are on holiday, if we have booked holiday because of the half term, then let us utilize this time in spending quality time with our children.
I mean, one of my friends was actually just, I remember some time back, they were just arranging with their kids that the kids were joining in and trying to help make iftars, community iftaris. So they're packing them together, putting them all together. It became quite a big activity, and
Going to masjid with their parents, with their dad, or with their brother.
They're actually doing deliveries outside people's homes. Some of the homes, it's estimated, taking on a slightly more serious tone, around a third of British households, Muslim households, will struggle at some point with trying to provide iftar for their families.
Indeed,
so
it was reported widely.
If you have the blessings of having some iftari, why not share it with some people who are in your community, just who need it or who don't need it, but you just want to share the iftar as well. And you can do that as a family activity.
Excellent. So basically inculcating good habits to our children. And of course, thanks to the parents as well, encouraging their children not only to ask good questions, but also at the same time, inculcating in them good habits at the same time, of course. Jazakallah khair for calling in. Now let's move on. Next question we'll move on to WhatsApp. And it's a good question, Sheikh. If I break my fast using a trusted smartphone adhan app, and then I hear the muaddin making adhan a minute later, or maybe even more, let's say, should I repeat the fast?
So the point is that there's a principle in Islamic teachings, which is known as istishab, that once something is considered, once you've completed an act, you don't go back and repeat it unless there's something which is an overriding basis to believe that it was invalid. So once salah has been completed, for example, one doesn't, unless one's certain that that prayer was conducted or performed without wudu, you don't allow mere conjecture to overrule the status quo of the act having been completed in a valid way. So you don't say, oh, I might have not had wudu, and start retroactively thinking it wasn't valid. Same thing with the fast. Once the fast has been, you've relied upon this app and you consider it to be, accurate, then it's absolutely fine. And I'd add a couple of points, which is the Maghrib prayer. There isn't really that much scope for it to be falling wide of the mark. Usually the difference is 1 or 2 minutes here or there, because Maghrib tends to be quite universal in terms of, it's not like Fajr prayer where there's more disparity. By and large, if there's just a couple of minutes difference between one app and another, it's not that consequential. You may wish to opt for the later app, the app that gives you just 2 extra minutes of a fast and then break it. That might be something which may be prudent to do. But you made a genuine course of decision making, which is you just stuck to one app. And then it's quite possible that mu'adhin you hear is actually doing it late, not actually on time. So this is no grounds for you to repeat your fast, inshallah. Just moving forwards, you may wish to try and choose the later app if you wish to, and Allah knows best.
Is the easiest way follow the local mosque calendar?
You can do, but otherwise, literally, if you've got an app, that works fine as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that answer. And of course, our viewers for asking good questions. Now let's move on to zakat question. And it is a pre-loaded question. You'll be able to see that displayed on your screen. Is zakat owed on 9-carat gold jewelry?
So zakat is due on 12, 18 and 24 carat. So 12 and above, not on 9 carat, because 9 carat is not majority gold. So the scholars have all the scholars who we've ever from the madhahib have stated that actually it needs to be majority gold for it to be due, or for zakat to be due on it.
Okay, excellent. What about if they have only 9-carat gold, but they've got cash, they've got silver?
Yeah, then you pay on the cash and the silver.
Okay.
It's not required. As it stands, gold itself is something which the madhahib discuss whether it's subject to zakah. It is no doubt the safer option, so we encourage people to pay zakat on it. And it's the Hanafi school of thought as well. But the Maliki say only if the gold is broken. The Shafis, Hanbalis have question marks about whether it's paid, period. But we'd say if you have, a jewelry or any gold which is majority gold, then you should pay zakat on it.
Also a common question, buying price or selling price?
You should use the current value itself. So if you were to get rid of, if you had to get rid of it right now, would it be at one sort of gold merchant, or would it be online? Whatever that rate would be is the value that you mentally conceive.
Selling price.
The selling price.
Okay.
Correct,
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Hope it answers all your questions. And if you do have any further questions, then 0203 515 0757. Now let's move on to our callers. Next. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, my dear sister, for calling in. Your question, please.
Yes, my question is on zakat as well.
Excellent.
So the question is, So the question is related to a property sale. So let's say you sold a property and you got a certain amount of money as profit. So and then you keep that profit as a deposit to your next property. And during this time, 1 year has passed by. Are you supposed to pay zakat on that money? And the reason I'm asking this is because if you had bought a property for that 1 year, you wouldn't be paying zakat, right? So
Sorry,
question is
that last line.
My dear sister, Sheikh has interjected there. If you can kindly repeat the last point that you've mentioned.
Yeah, so you got the question like, are you supposed to pay zakat on the money that has been in the deposit account for 1 year?
For 1 year.
And the reason is because had I bought a property for that 1 year, I wouldn't be paying zakat, isn't it?
Okay, hold on to that. Sheikh, is the question clear to you first?
Each time, sister, when you're speaking, you said, the reason I ask is because, and that's when your line would cut in the studio.
Okay, let me understand. So you're trying to buy a residential property or commercial property?
So it's a residential property. And
in the UK? In the UK?
In the UK.
Okay.
And you sold your previous property.
Okay.
You have that money.
Oh, I see. So you're okay. Sorry to interrupt you, my dear sister. So just so I can understand, because there's a slight problem with the on your line, it's constantly there is a disconnection there. So you have sold a property, you've got a money in deposit, and it's now over a year, and you have the intention to buy another property with the money that you have as a deposit, which was acquired from the sale of a previous property.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now,
And
okay. Now you are trying to find out with you whether you have to pay zakat on that deposit.
are you supposed to pay zakat? Because the reason being, if you had found a property before the 1 year and you bought that property with the deposit, you won't be having that money, isn't it?
Yes.
And then you
Okay. I
won't
see
be
what you
paying
mean.
zakat. So
Okay.
hence
Khalas. I think it's clear to me. So let me ask you. I'm assuming it's related to you. You are trying to buy a property.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So have you found the property then?
Not yet, but
Not
maybe
yet. And that money has been there for 1 year.
yeah, it's going to be 1 year by
Okay, but obviously you're looking to buy another property. Okay, it's clear. Sheikh, any additional question?
No.
Okay, it's the question is very clear to us. However, my dear sister, will answer after the short break. So please bear with us and stay patiently with us. We'll be right back after a few moments. You're watching Ask Imam. Thank you very much. Welcome back. You're watching Ask Iman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. It's a live interactive Q&A program, 0203 515 0757. You can drop us a text on WhatsApp, 07916841483. We're also streaming it live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. Thank you to all our viewers who've sent us WhatsApp, YouTube question, Facebook. Inshallah, we'll be taking those questions live on air in a few moments, inshallah. Thank you to all of those callers that have called in so far. Please bear with us. Inshallah, we'll be returning back to your phone calls. But Sheikh, let's start from a preloaded question, and it is again zakah. Now, do business or before we move on to the zakah, I think there was a question in the last segment. Sister asked a very important question about the zakah. Apology, my sister. Let's start with that question. It's about a property. I'll let you describe that so it's better for our viewers to understand it. And it was about a property and paying zakah on the property which has been sold.
Yeah, so the question was regarding someone who has sold their own property, has the funds which have generated from that sale, and then they have had that cash for the duration of a full lunar year and are hoping to buy a new property but have not yet done so. Does that money which they have currently on in their bank account, is it subject to zakat or is it not? And the answer to that is simply the fact that that cash that's been generated from the sale is actually part of your own cash. And we said that cash, gold and silver is always subject to zakat. So yes, the answer is it would be subject to zakat, and Allah knows best. And remember that, of course, while you'd have to speak to a financial advisor, that's something which is always prudent. The Islamic belief is that zakat does not diminish the blessing of our wealth, rather it increases the blessing of our wealth. So it's just something to bear in mind. Inshallah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, whoever you pay your zakat to, but we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses that purchase of the new property for you because you choose to do the right actions beforehand in terms of paying zakat.
Thank you very much. But from a perspective of viewer, I'm trying to understand that's a significant amount of zakah I have to pay because it's a significant amount of value, especially if it's in London. We know the prices around London, of course. Also, if Allah has given me the ability to buy one property and sell one property, surely even if I pay zakah, if Allah wills, He can give me the ability to perhaps even get a better house with a bigger amount.
Sure, it's true.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Okay, excellent. Jazakallah khair. Because sometimes we have a tendency, oh my God, if I've paid that much amount of money, then the area that I'm trying to buy my property and I might lose out because I don't have enough money. But inshallah, at the end of the day, it's all believe and having tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfilling the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, as Shaykh has mentioned, Allah will give us more barakah. Jazakallah khair for that. And thank you, my dear sister, for calling us, not only live into the studio, but asking such an important question. Now let's move on to a generated question. Do business owners have to pay separate zakah?
Okay, so this is a brilliant question because people often they have this question mark regarding zakat on their businesses. The reality is we often consider, we as in like as people, just generally Muslims, non-Muslims alike, consider businesses as sometimes an independent, as we call it, artificial legal personality, right? That's to say that it's independent to us. But if you think about it from a slightly different angle, not for legal purposes, but just for the purpose of our question here, your business, let's say if you are the sole owner of the business for the sake of argument, let's just give the example of someone who owns, I don't know, a car business or cash and carries or the like. Now, the reality is you own all of that business. That means the stock, though it's in the name of cash and carries and you're the director, etc. The point is the revenue that's generated from it is actually yours, and the stock is also ultimately you're responsible for it, or you should consider yourself the legal owner for it, Islamically speaking. So when it comes to the guy or the woman who owns their cash and carry,
Example,
by way of example, there are other brands which exist. If you were to do such a thing, if you were to be in such a scenario, then what you have to do is apply the same principles that we've mentioned before to your scenario. What are those principles? You add all your cash and put that in your Excel sheet, for example. You also add the market value of your stock, the stock in trade, what you could sell it for today. You add that on as well. Any trade debts which are owed to you, you'd add that in as well. And the total of that would be 2.5% of that would be zakatable. I'd add as one final point that if the business was a different sort of business, for example, someone who designs clothes, garments, right? And not just designs them, but makes them. Now, in reality, once you've made it, you could sell it for whatever the price it might be. I don't know.
what a market price value.
Market value. I'm just making a price up of, let's say, £100 for this special attire, okay? But prior to having completed, it's just all of that is cloth, right? So you then should include just the market value of the cloth, which is much less than the £100, of the cloth, of the thread, of anything that's going to be included in that end product, right? So you use, it's what we call finished goods versus work in progress. So the work in progress, you use the market value for that. The finished good would be a higher level and you'd add that instead.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it's however, this is a straightforward question because people may have complex business needs. So for that, what would you advise?
Of course, for complex business needs, you should speak to a scholar who can understand your situation and give you advice accordingly.
And I have to ask this, unfortunately, some of us may be involved with slightly some of haram business because they may have halal and bit of haram, for example. How do they pay the zakah?
So you'd segregate the haram wealth from the halal. The haram wealth is ultimately needs to be dealt with in the Islamic mannerisms. The halal wealth will be subject to zakat.
Excellent, inshallah. May Allah give us the ability to have our earnings all in halal, inshallah. And if not, let us use this Ramadan as a starting point, inshallah. Now, before we move on to our next WhatsApp questions or YouTube, let's move on to a caller. Let's see who's next on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much. A question.
Yeah. Asking, if I have money in another country, how would I give zakat from that while I'm living here? Yeah, can I take the money in here, my account here, pay on behalf of that one?
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. MashaAllah, all of those last questions have been zakat questions. Over to you, Sheikh.
So, sister, the question is quite simple. Your wealth, wherever it is your wealth, and you include it and you pay zakat. It doesn't have to be. In today's day and age, you don't have to take it from that specific pot. So imagine, in simple language, you have a pot in London and another pot in another country, Timbuktu. So you don't have to actually take 2.5% from the London pot and then 2.5% from the Timbuktu pot. You can actually just join the two pots together. £1,000 becomes £2,000, and you just pay £50, which is 2.5% of the £2,000 is £50. You just pay the £50 and your job is done, inshallah.
Okay, so wherever your wealth is, you have to take that all into consideration. Yeah. Now, another question could be, it's in a different currency. We're here in sterling pound. What do we do?
So it's the same thing. You literally just use that amount. So let's say sterling pound is one pot over here, £1,000. in Timbuktu, you've got £1,000 equivalent in the currency in Timbuktu,
okay, fine.
and you just pay the equivalent amount.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Now, next we'll move on to our YouTube question, and it is regarding kafara. If you deliberately break fast, and if you cannot afford this sum, and you cannot fast for 60 days consecutively, what can you do? Will Allah forgive if I sincerely repent?
So the question is about someone who has broken a fast through...
They haven't mentioned how, they just mentioned they've deliberately broke their fast. We can assume, obviously there are a lot of assumptions we can make there, but say for example, if they have broken their fast through action that they shouldn't, what should they do then?
So there is discussion amongst the scholars regarding what is required when a person has intentionally broken a fast. Of course, to break a fast intentionally without actual due reason or cause, such as a health condition or some other extenuating circumstances, which is discussed or explained elsewhere, Islamically speaking, if it's been done in a way which is not acceptable, i.e. just because one didn't feel like, then that is, of course, Islamically speaking, a sin. And a major sin at that point. One turns back to Allah with sincere repentance. Allah is more than willing to forgive. But one should recognize that, acknowledge that, and turn back with the sincere resolve not to perpetrate that act again. In terms of the kafara that's due, or the kind of, if you like, compensation or the expiation for doing that, then if the fast was broken through intimacy itself, then all the scholars held the view that it would then be the 60 days of fasting, and if not, in the manner that you mentioned in the question. However, if it's through eating or drinking, then the earlier madhab, that's the Hanafi Maliki school, say the 60 days. The Shafi'i Hanbali school of thought say that no, you just make up that day of fasting. Okay? So the point is, it's possible you just make up that day of fast. So speak to a scholar who you trust, and they will be able to advise in your circumstance specifically.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And may Allah give us the ability to abstain from all sort of activities that nullifies our fast. Next question. I've got literally less than 1 minute. It's a generated question. If we can complete within 60 seconds. Do I pay zakah on my kids' child trust fund? They're 16 years old.
So your child's trust fund, 16-year-olds, legally, they're below the age of legal majority, so they're a child. Islamically, they will be baligh, so now, therefore, there would be zakat on them according to all schools of thought.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Inshallah, maybe in some other episode we'll be able to clarify more. But thank you, my dear Shaykh, for giving us your valuable time. And inshallah, I look forward to seeing you again next week. My dear viewers, thank you. Thanks to all of those viewers who have called in, asked questions, and apology we couldn't take all the callers and we couldn't answer all the questions. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week. So inshallah, do pose your questions at that point in time, and it will be between 5:30 to 6:30. Of course, Ask Eman live on Sky 757 on Eman Channel. Until next time, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.